Shalom, welcome to Rob on the Rock. I'm Rob Vanoff, and for this week's Ancient Torah Manuscripts, we're looking at a tiny fragment of Deuteronomy 17, verse 14 from Cave 2 at Qumran. It dates probably to the 1st century Common Era, and we're going to look at this fragment here and look at the Hebrew text as well, and we'll compare it with what we call the Masoretic Text. The basic text at hand in English here, I think this is the NASB that I have. It says, when you come into the land that the Lord your God is giving you, and you possess it, and dwell in it, and then say, I will set a king over me. So this is Deuteronomy 17:14, and what I have in bold here is the little bit of the fragment. Giving you, and you possess it. That is it. It's a tiny little bit of text from the entire scroll, from the entire text of Deuteronomy, or from the Torah scroll as a whole. We don't know. My suspicion is that this was either from a scroll of Deuteronomy, and this is all we have left, or it was part of what we call an excerpted text. That is a roll of leather that had various passages of Scripture, for whatever reason, gathered together and copied from even different books of the Bible, all on the same scroll. That's my suspicion, but this is all we have. And I'll just show you here a quick outline. Is this word here. We see a lamed, and then a kaf, and then a hey. And then we have a vav, and a yod, a resh, a sheen, and then what is presumed to be a tav, and probably another hey after that. And this here is probably a nun, vav, and then probably a part of a tav, and then you see the ink down here, probably a nun sophit. And so the Masoretic text, and we'll look at that here, has nun, tav, nun sophit, noten with a cholam, whereas here we see the vav, lach, or to you, lamed kaf, and then vav, yod, resh, shin, tav, and hey, and giving you, and you inherit it is the language. There's no other passage in the Torah that would fit as well as this does, nothing even close. So that's why scholars are convinced that this is in fact Deuteronomy 17:14. So let's look now. I'm going to shift to my accordance screen, and we'll just look at the Hebrew. So verse 14, it says, Ki tavo, that is when you will enter, el haaretz. Ki tavo el haaretz, when you enter into the land, asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach, which the Lord your God is giving you, noten lach. And then it continues, says, virishta, and you inherit it. So the hey with the mapik here at the end is referring back to eretz, which is the feminine antecedent. Ki tavo el haaretz, when you enter into the land, asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach, which the Lord your God is giving you, virishta, and you inherit her, v'yashavta, and you dwell, v'yashavta ba, rather, and you dwell in her, ve'amarta, and you will say, asima alai, I will set over me melech, a king, kechol hagoyim asher svivotai, just as all the nations which surround me. So that is Deuteronomy 17:14. I have the NASB here on the right. When you enter the land which the Lord your God gives you, and you possess it. So it's this word, possess it or inherit it, and live in it. You shall say, I will set a king over me, etc. So notice the Hebrew, though, the Masoretic text is noten. It's a masculine singular participle of natan, the verb latet, to give, with the cholam. So there's no vav here, but it's noten, oh, we know the o sound. And then lach is in pause. Normally, without pause, we'd say lacha, to give to you. But lach is in pausal form, noten lach, who gives to you. And what we see differentiating the Masoretic text from the text we have here is, as I already pointed out here with another arrow, is likely a vav for notain, which is totally fine. It doesn't change the meaning, but also a different vocalization here. And I'll put this in orange just to contrast these two words. Lach is the Masoretic tradition where they put a kametz under the lamed. Lacha would be an acceptable vocalization also. And we know that just as Qumran scribes sometimes used a vav for an O sound, we know they used a hey for a ah sound. Lacha, who gives to you. So, in my opinion, I think the scholars are correct in identifying this fragment here as a tiny, tiny surviving evidence of the presence of Deuteronomy 17:14 in Qumran in a manuscript. My best guess is that this is probably not a Torah scroll or even a Deuteronomy scroll. Like I said, probably a collection of different verses that were put together for the sake of study and meditation, what we call excerpted texts. And that would also make sense of why we would see the easy variance from the temple scribe tradition, specifically again the vav for the o sound, and then the hey for the ah sound here. Vav and hey. So that's my 2 cents on this week's Ancient Torah Manuscripts. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and please share it with friends that are love God and are interested in learning about the ancient Hebrew scribal tradition. Shalom.